Hello and welcome to the Cave of Creation? Wrong channel. Cave of Chronicles. This is real-time storytelling where if people show up, I create a story with chat. If not, I go and play computer games. So hopefully, unlike Sunday, we will get a couple of people dropping in and that will give us something to work with. If not, this will very quickly disappear. If this doesn't disappear, the first 10 minutes will disappear in about 12 hours time when YouTube enable me to, and it will cut straight in at the story. But if you're here before then, either wait or just jump forward about 10 minutes to the 12-minute mark, because there's a 2-minute roll in. About there you should get it. Other news while I wait to see if anyone besides my wife joins chat, is we're now just past halfway through At the Mountains of Madness. I've got to separate between where I'm editing and where I'm actually broadcasting. When that comes, the format is switching slightly, and I'm going to try for a short while, or for longer if it works, one release of a video a week. It will be the same length of content but in a single video rather than spread out across 3. We'll see how that does, because at the moment the numbers aren't particularly hopeful for what we're doing now. So that will be tried after At the Mountains of Madness. Still nobody particularly in chat, so I will try keeping talking. Oh, hey Legion. That's positive. We've got somebody. We've actually got a stream tonight. So, any ideas for me, Legion? What else is otherwise potentially going on? I think that as far as the main channel is concerned is pretty much it. The big thing that's coming up is the switch to 1 release a week, and at the moment I haven't decided. I'll wait and see how it goes with the streaming with these live ones, and whether that becomes 1 or 2 a week. Got half of the usual team. We're missing my favourite nutcase, Sir Tooty of the Fruity. Hoping a bit more come through from chat. I know there was a vague storyline put forward by my wife, with it being based in a school and around a school where there are demons. See you back in a minute, Legion. Hopefully his internet sorts out and we get him back. What else? Oh, I would like to give huge thanks, if he sees this, to Lobo the main man, who has just joined up on Patreon at the member level. Thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. Can't remember which episode it is where it will start showing up. I think it might be 10ish, when it gets into the credits at the end. But thank you very much. It is very much appreciated. I've seen Tooty! You have been mentioned before you got here. You have not been forgotten, my friend. Legion's having internet problems, so hopefully we'll be back. As you gave me a sensible as you gave me a sensible comment. I'm terrified what I'm going to get today. But your test works. My wife is telling me to tell you, Tutti, that when she was throwing ideas forward for the not so successful Sunday stream, she tried to get Nutkins in for you. And yes, you're there, Legion, I can see it. So, ideas, thoughts, anything you want to do to try and work with demons in a school setting? My wife's idea was that the teacher helps try and save the kids from the demon. My idea was that the teachers were the demons. The sofa was very comfortable after that. It is still very quiet in chat.
Yeah, exactly, Tutti.
You're siding with my wife, Tutti. She's agreeing with you in the background. Sheesh.
I do quite like this guy.
Okay, starting to put ideas together for that one. So is this a demons versus demons thing? The children are the demons, the teachers are the demons, everybody's the demons. My head hurts, and I haven't started yet.
That would be funny.
Nutkins is the demon. Well, I think that fits for a squirrel. Right, give me some more to work on rather than just both the teachers, children, and Nutkins being demons. Nutkins is the teacher. I think I need to start filling this with vodka for these. So, any additional thoughts? You've got about 2.5 minutes. I could do with some context, period. What's happening? Where's the story? My wife's saying that her work is done. School of Magic. Trouble with that is it's been very, very much done, and it will be very hard not to accidentally infringe on copyright, because my brain, in the speed that these run, is latching out at anything it can think of, and that could get me into trouble if I'm not careful. But of course there will be magic going on. I just need to be cautious on that one. We've got less than a minute.
My brain is going down the corridor of the schoolhouse. That might be cool. Like wandering the schoolhouse in the back corner of that village. A la Arkham.
Yes, Tutti, I understand where that could go, and no, I'm not touching that with yours, my friend. That could get me into so much trouble so quickly. Oh, this is going to be a long one.
Yay! On the screen.
Only long for me. And it's time. Here we go. It was Johnny's first day at his new school. His family had moved from New York out into the wilds of New England. It was a small town with just one schoolroom, one teacher who taught everything. At the age of 8, this wasn't that big a deal. His father would send him off to school when he was older, but for now, he had to attend. He didn't know anybody here, and he was a bit nervous. The other kids seemed strange, but he was a city boy, and they were country kids. His father had got him dressed up properly for school, given him his bag, and sent him out. As he walked, slowly heading up that way. The carriage and horses weren't something that was used here. There were wagons, but it wasn't the same as in the big city, where you could get cabs or carriages, and there was even talk of the steam railway going underground. That was going to be something amazing. But that was gone. He kind of felt a bit sad. He'd lost all of his friends. But his father had decided to go and do something different and become the doctor for a small town after his mother had passed. Walking to school, he looked round. The weather was mild, but it was starting to get more chilly. He would need bigger coats as it got colder. He imagined what it would be like out here with snow, trumping through heavy snow to get to what was almost certainly going to be a cold schoolroom. He hoped the teacher was nice, but he doubted it. Wandering, he saw the fairly large but single building that made up the schoolhouse. There were kids playing outside in the last few minutes before it was time to start, but he kept his distance. He didn't know any of them, and they were bigger than him. Not that he was small, but they'd worked on farms all their lives, whereas he was the son of a doctor. Walking in, he headed straight up to the schoolroom. The teacher looked down at him sternly. It was a tall man with a slight moustache and beard, and a stern face with short hair. He turned round. "And you will be Jonathan then?" "It's Johnny, sir." "No, it's Jonathan when you're in my class." He turned round and pointed to one of the seats. "Go, sit down, and be ready to learn." This spiked all of Johnny's fear. He could swear there was a red flash in the teacher's eye as he looked at him, and he walked down, turning, seeing behind him as the kids started to move in. The ones had stopped playing now looked serious and came in silence, filing to their individual seats. The day was long and hard for Johnny. The teacher seemed to pick on him from the start, asking him all sorts of questions. Questions he couldn't answer. When he couldn't, he was told he was staying at lunchtime, and he had to sit and read. He couldn't go out, he couldn't eat. He had to pick up the knowledge he had. As lunchtime came, the teacher went out the back, pointing at one of the students to follow him. The student did, and as Johnny read his book, he could have sworn he heard a brief yelp from the background. And then after lunch, when the kid came back, he had a sort of stern, vacant look on his face as he came in. One moment. Comment in chat, I can't repeat. If you want to see it, look at the live chat that's available. Tutti, you're a bad, bad man. After lunch, it was much the same, and Johnny was even given a detention afterwards, having to read and clean the classroom. He had noticed various of the kids, but one girl had given him a sympathetic look as she left. Johnny got up at the end and quietly walked home. He hadn't had a chance to talk to the other kids. He felt very sad and lonely. As he walked, he heard a strange voice. "Hello? Hello?" He looked over, and it was the girl running along the side of the street. "You're new, aren't you?" Johnny nodded. "I'm Mary. I know you're Johnny. I saw the teacher pick on you. He's not nice. I don't like him. I'm fairly new and he scares me. I've only been here a month. About once a month, he makes one of the kids go back with him at lunchtime. And when they come back, they're different. They've changed. They're nasty. I'm scared." Johnny looked at us. "There's nothing to be scared of. It's just school. School can be hard." She smiled wanly at him. "Maybe. I've got to go home. But thank you, Mary. It's nice to meet you. I'll see you tomorrow." And with that, Johnny went home. This was his life for several weeks. Occasionally, he got some lunch, got to go out and play, but most of the time, he was told to stay and read. He saw Mary. She never spoke to him in class. She never spoke to anyone in the class, just coming in early quietly by herself and sitting and watching. No one seemed to notice her, and she was lucky the teacher didn't pick on her. After about a month, during lunchtime, another child went in, and he could see the difference again as the child came out. It seemed happier as he went in. He hadn't been that unpleasant or unfriendly, but when he came out, he joined the group of thugs and bullies, the nasty kids that picked on everyone else. Again, Mary stopped him that night, telling him about what had happened. I think he changes them. He does something horrible to them out of the back. We need to find out what it is so that he doesn't do it to us. Johnny nodded. Do you have any ideas? I think he has a book. There's a book on the shelves, a book of strange things. If you could get it, you could read it, and maybe we could do something. Johnny thought about it. He wasn't a brave child, but Mary seemed scared, and he had to say, he was fairly unnerved himself. The next day, quietly saying a prayer, Johnny turned round and said to the teacher, "I've finished my book, sir. Can I get another one?" The teacher looked at him sternly and just vaguely pointed at the shelves, continuing to pay attention to the rest of the class. While he wasn't looking, Johnny went over. He could see the books that the teacher pointed at, but he looked over at the side. He could see where Jenny meant. When the teacher didn't look, Mary pointed, and he saw strangely bound book. Had weird writing on the side that looked like some of the Arabic script he'd seen. He quietly got that book and tucked it behind one of the other bigger ones so that it wouldn't be seen as he headed back to his seat. The teacher looked at him sternly, and he quickly opened the larger book, pulling the small one back and tucking it into his school bag. He continued to read the various pieces of work that the teacher was giving them. That night, when he got home, he snuck upstairs and opened the book. One side of each page was in the Arabic script, and the other side was a translation into English. Nervously, he started reading of fabulous creatures, strange places, horrible rituals, and painful and evil acts. As he gradually went through, he found a couple that could be appropriate further on, but it was time to go to bed. That night he dreamt, and all he could see were strange creatures. The teacher, his teeth seemed to grow, hair spurted, weird little ears popped out of the side of his head, and he looked kind of like a rodent at the two children, almost like a squirrel. There was something odd. It wasn't a friendly little squirrel. It was evil. It had flashing red eyes, and the teeth were sharper than they should be. He woke up covered in sweat as the face had turned to him. His dreams were rough for many days after that, as he carefully went through the book day by day, realizing that actually the teacher seemed to be either a demon or consorting with demons, and what he was doing was summoning the children and ripping out their souls, feeding either himself or something he was summoning. Something horrified him as he got to the bottom, realizing that actually to start this entire set of rituals, the first one was a sacrifice. The sacrifice of a young, innocent virgin to bring forward the demon into the first vessel. That vessel was obviously the teacher. Johnny was terrified when he went to school the next day, but he'd taken with him a small pot of salt that was supposed to be effective, and he could put a circle round himself using it that the demon shouldn't be able to cross. He'd snuck into the church that night and had several bottles of holy water. He had his crucifix. He just hoped that they would work. And failing that, he had his father's revolver. Hey Tom, long time no see. The next day, he headed in, shaking a little. The teacher looked at him and smiled. Ah, Johnny, today might just be your day. Johnny's eyes went wide as the teacher just pointed in, telling him to go and sit down. He could see Mary at the back, looking scared, shaking her head, but by now there was nothing he could do. He kept his school bag close with him. The teacher, at lunchtime, "Leave your book, Johnny. I want you to come out back with me." Quietly, he nodded, picked up his bag, subtly hoping the teacher wouldn't notice he was bringing it with him, and followed him back as the door opened to the back room. Inside was dark. There wasn't the electric lighting of the front room. There wasn't even an oil lamp. There were a few candles. And when he looked down, there was a strange diagram on the floor. Dark, red and dried. Having read the book, he knew that it was blood. The teacher saw him look. "Don't worry about that. There are other things first." He looked up. "Today is your day, Johnny. You join us." Johnny stepped back and put his hand under his jacket and pulled out the crucifix, holding it back, telling the teacher to get back. The teacher's eyes flashed red as he surged forward. Johnny pushed the cross onto his chest and could smell the fizzling. Hand desperately clutching in his bag, he smashed the side of one of the glass bottles of holy water over the teacher's head, and he stepped back, screaming, as smoke started coming off his head and his eyes flashed burning anger. His hand went out and lightning came out of the fingers. Johnny was shocked and jolted across the room as electricity hit him. Screaming, he curled into a ball, desperately coming for the little bit of salt. Screaming, "Mary, Mary, please help!" He desperately started shaking, trying to make a circle round himself. The teacher realized what he was doing, surged forward, trying to get to him, when suddenly the ghost of Mary appeared, for that is what she was. Rising out of the floor, she looked at the teacher and told him to stop. The teacher's eyes, all red and flames, stared at her, and he smiled. "I had your body. Now I shall get what remains of your soul." Not noticing while he was distracted, Johnny had finished making a circle around himself. Opening the book, he started chanting. The teacher looked up, seeing, and screamed. He stepped forward, not realizing he was now in the middle of his own dark circle. Mary screamed and just seemed to dissipate into the air. As Johnny continued to chant, he started picking up the holy water that he had remaining and shaking it towards the teacher and towards the giant circle in front of him. The teacher screamed, shouted as though he was in agony, pushing up, trying to get to Johnny, but whatever the circle that had been caused by the salt, he ran into it, and there was a solid barrier preventing him. Finally, with a shuddering halt, feeling the burnt side of his body from the lightning, Johnny called out the final chants and hurled the salt into the middle of the giant circle, followed by the holy water, finishing with a prayer to God. There was a flare of flame, blistering heat that pushed him back within his little enclave. The teacher screamed as he was sucked into the vortex created by the flame, whirling him away until there was a sudden thunderclap. Johnny was pushed back out of his circle, smashed against the back wall, where he crumpled, and everything went dark. Johnny woke up in his father's house. He was recovering. His father was the doctor that they'd called. He had had several broken ribs. He was burnt. His father was desperately trying to prevent the infection, and he hurt. Knowing no one would believe him, he claimed not to be able to remember what had happened after he was called back. The police had decided that there had been some kind of oil heater back there that must have exploded and burnt the teacher to the crisp and caught Johnny as it did so. But as the fire had spread and they had had to come to clean up what was left, they had found one thing that surprised them: the remains of a little girl who had been going to the school when the teacher first started and disappeared in mysterious circumstances. A little girl called Mary. How was that? Thoughts? Besides the fact that I got stalled in the middle by Tootie. You're a bad, bad man, Tootie. I hope you enjoyed, everyone enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. My wife got her schoolroom one. I got Nutkins. I think I got most of the stuff that you put in there. And that's it for today. There will probably be another one on Sunday. I will post in the community section on YouTube and in Discord if there isn't. For anyone else watching this, please join our Eldritch Order on Discord. It's accessed via Patreon if you want to. Otherwise, click subscribe, followed by the bell, and notify all, because that is the only way you will have a chance of potentially YouTube telling you when these start. YouTube does funny things with recommendations, so just subscribing doesn't mean it will tell you. You have to actually be going to the things on the channel. Otherwise, farewell for now and see you all soon.